We Are the World brought Michael Jackson, Tina Turner, Bob Dylan, Diana Ross, and dozens of music legends together for one unforgettable night. At the time, they seemed untouchable. But today, many of the voices that made history are no longer with us, and even the mastermind behind the recording passed away in 2024. So what really happened to the We Are the World singers after that historic night? Let's uncover the shocking truth behind their extraordinary success. Michael Jackson. By the time nearly 50 music legends gathered inside A&M Studios, one thing had already been decided. The song they were about to sing belonged to Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. Michael was only 26 years old, but Quincy Jones still trusted him to co-write We Are the World. When it was finally his turn at the microphone, his soaring solo instantly became the emotional heartbeat of the song. The single went on to sell over 20 million copies, raise more than $63 million for famine relief, and win 4 Grammy Awards. Yet as his fame reached unimaginable heights, his private life became increasingly painful. He battled vitiligo, lupus, chronic pain after the 1984 Pepsi accident, relentless media scrutiny, and years of legal controversies that permanently damaged his health and public image despite his 2005 acquittal. On June 25, 2009, Michael died at just 50, only weeks before his This Is It comeback. But more than 4 decades later, his voice remains the soul of We Are the World. Lionel Richie. While most of the singers only had to memorize a few lines, Lionel Richie carried the weight of an entire project before the recording even began. At 35 years old, he had spent weeks writing We Are the World with Michael Jackson, then walked into A&M Studios knowing that if the song failed, much of the blame would fall on him. Instead, it became one of the best-selling singles in history, raising millions for famine relief and adding another triumph to a career already defined by hits like Hello, All Night Long, and Endless Love. Success, however, did not spare him from hardship. Years of non-stop touring severely damaged his vocal cords, forcing multiple surgeries after doctors warned he could permanently lose his singing voice, while 2 highly publicized divorces kept his private life under constant media scrutiny. Richie refused to let either setback define him, painstakingly rebuilding his voice before returning to the stage. In 2026, at 77 years old, he is still touring the world, proving that the man who helped unite music's biggest stars never stopped believing in the power of one song. Cyndi Lauper. The most unforgettable mistake of the entire We Are the World session came from Cyndi Lauper. At 31 years old, the noisy bracelets around her wrists briefly interrupted the recording, yet moments later she delivered the soaring line, "Well, let us realize," creating one of the song's most unforgettable vocal performances. Fresh from the explosive success of She's So Unusual, Lauper quickly became one of the defining voices of the 1980s before reinventing herself decades later as the Tony Award-winning songwriter behind Kinky Boots. Behind her colorful image, however, she quietly battled severe plaque psoriasis for years, enduring painful flare-ups that affected both her confidence and career, while difficult disputes with record labels slowed her commercial momentum during the 1990s. Instead of giving up, she rebuilt her career on her own terms. Now, Cyndi Lauper is 73 years old and remains a passionate humanitarian whose unforgettable voice still stands among the brightest moments of We Are the World. Tina Turner. When Tina Turner walked into A&M Studios in January 1985, she wasn't making a comeback anymore. She had already completed one of the greatest comebacks in music history. At 45 years old, the worldwide success of Private Dancer and What's Love Got to Do With It had transformed that survivor into the queen of rock and roll, making her powerful performance one of the highlights of the historic recording. The comeback that seemed impossible continued for decades as Turner sold more than 100 million records, won 8 Grammy Awards, and inspired generations with classics like Proud Mary and The Best. Yet every triumph had come at a painful cost. After enduring years of brutal physical and emotional abuse during her marriage to Ike Turner, she escaped in 1976 with little more than her stage name. Later, she survived a stroke, battled intestinal cancer, received a kidney donated by her husband, Erwin Bach, and suffered the heartbreaking loss of both her sons. Tina Turner died peacefully in Switzerland on May 24, 2023, at age 83, leaving behind a legacy of resilience that proved stronger than any chart record. Bob Dylan. For perhaps the only time in his legendary career, Bob Dylan looked genuinely terrified in front of a microphone when he was just 43 years old. He quietly admitted he had no idea how his unmistakable voice fit the song, until Stevie Wonder jokingly imitated his singing style, giving him the confidence to deliver one of the recording's most memorable solos. The moment introduced Dylan to a new generation, adding another chapter to a career already defined by classics like Blowin' in the Wind, Like a Rolling Stone, and Knockin' on Heaven's Door. Behind the legend, however, was a man shaped by hardship, including a near-fatal motorcycle crash in 1966 and a lifetime spent avoiding fame despite constant public attention. By 2026, at 85 years old, Bob Dylan remains one of music's greatest mysteries, and the man who almost didn't sing his most famous charity anthem. Ray Charles. As the final chorus of We Are the World approached, Ray Charles stepped to the microphone and delivered a soulful finale alongside Stevie Wonder when he was 54 years old. It became one of the recording's most unforgettable moments. The performance perfectly reflected a career built on timeless classics like Georgia on My Mind, Hit the Road Jack, and I Can't Stop Loving You, making him one of the most influential musicians in American history. Yet his remarkable journey began with extraordinary hardship. Completely blind by the age of 7, Ray refused to let darkness define his future, later overcoming a heroin addiction that nearly consumed 2 decades of his life. He continued performing until his health declined in his final years and passed away on June 10, 2004, at the age of 73, from complications of liver disease. Even among dozens of legendary singers, Ray Charles gave We Are the World the unforgettable ending that only the genius could deliver. Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen may have been the most exhausted singer to walk into the We Are the World studio. Only hours earlier, he had finished a marathon stop on his wildly successful Born in the USA tour before flying through the night to Los Angeles. Yet at 35 years old, he still delivered one of the recording's most powerful performances. His raw, unmistakable voice captured the determination that had already made him one of America's greatest rock storytellers through albums like Born to Run, The River, and Born in the USA. While millions saw The Boss filling stadiums around the world, few realized he was quietly fighting a very different battle. Springsteen has since spoken candidly about living with chronic depression for decades, proving that even enormous success could not silence his inner struggles. More recently, he was forced to postpone numerous concerts while receiving treatment for peptic ulcer disease, but he eventually returned to the stage with the same relentless energy that defined his career. At 76 in 2026, Bruce Springsteen became one of rock's greatest performers, and his unforgettable contribution to We Are the World showed that even after a sleepless night, his voice could still move the world. Diana Ross. When the final notes of We Are the World faded, Diana Ross wasn't ready for the night to end. After hours of singing alongside music's biggest stars, the 40-year-old icon broke into tears and quietly told Quincy Jones, "I don't want this to be over." That emotional farewell, later revealed in The Greatest Night in Pop, showed a side of Ross that fans rarely saw behind her glamorous image. Her elegant performance immediately after Michael Jackson's solo also became one of the recording's most memorable transitions, reflecting the grace that had already made her a legend through the Supremes and timeless hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Endless Love, and I'm Coming Out. Life outside the spotlight, however, brought its share of heartbreak. 2 marriages ended in divorce, her 2002 DUI arrest damaged her public image, and in 2004 she was devastated when her former husband, Arne Ness Jr., died in a mountain climbing accident. In 2026, Diana Ross is 82 years old and remains one of the last surviving icons from that extraordinary night. But many fans remember her tears just as much as her voice. Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers believed in We Are the World almost from the very beginning. He was one of the first artists to commit to the project, and at 46 years old, he opened the song's first solo with the warm country voice that instantly welcomed listeners into history. The performance reflected everything that had made Rogers one of America's most beloved crossover stars through classics like The Gambler, Lady, and Islands in the Stream with Dolly Parton. Yet the calm confidence audiences admired often hid a complicated personal life. Rogers went through 5 marriages and 4 divorces, including a costly settlement that became one of the biggest financial blows of his life. As his health declined, he quietly retired from touring and spent his final months receiving hospice care surrounded by family. Kenny Rogers died peacefully on March 20th, 2020, at the age of 81. While fans will always remember him as the Gambler, millions will forever recognize his voice as the one that opened the most famous charity song ever recorded, Billy Joel. Billy Joel wasn't supposed to sound like a rock star that night. He was supposed to sound like hope. At just 35 years old, Joel brought a powerful blend of vulnerability and determination that helped turn We Are the World into something far more than a charity single. By 1985, Billy Joel was already one of the best-selling artists in the world. Albums such as The Stranger, 52nd Street, and An Innocent Man, together with classics including Piano Man, Just the Way You Are, Uptown Girl, and We Didn't Start the Fire, made him one of America's defining singer-songwriters. His remarkable career later earned him 5 Grammy Awards, induction into both the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, along with recognition as one of the greatest songwriters of his generation. Behind the fame, however, Joel survived struggles that nearly ended his life long before his career began. At 21, while battling severe depression, he attempted suicide twice, and later described those years as the darkest period of his life. A devastating motorcycle accident in 1982 left him with a badly injured hand, while years of alcohol abuse threatened both his health and career. Now, at 77, Billy Joel performs only occasionally after scaling back his touring schedule, but his influence on American music remains unquestioned. More than 40 years after We Are the World, his brief solo still captures the same urgency that inspired millions to believe music really could change lives. Paul Simon. While dozens of superstars filled the studio with larger-than-life personalities, Paul Simon proved that the quietest voice could be just as unforgettable. At 35 years old, he was already one of America's most celebrated singer-songwriters, and his heartfelt performance blended naturally into a lineup filled with music's biggest legends. The moment reflected a career built on unforgettable albums like The Stranger, 52nd Street, and An Innocent Man, along with timeless hits including Piano Man, Just the Way You Are, Uptown Girl, and We Didn't Start the Fire. Yet the confidence audiences admired had been forged through painful personal struggles. As a young man, Joel battled severe depression and survived 2 suicide attempts, later describing that period as the darkest chapter of his life. A serious motorcycle accident in 1982 badly injured his hand, and years of alcohol abuse created more obstacles before he regained control of his life and career. Today, at 77 years old, Billy Joel performs only occasionally, but more than 4 decades after We Are the World, his brief solo still reminds listeners that even the quietest voice can leave a lasting impact. Bob Geldof as Self. Before We Are the World ever existed, Bob Geldof had already proven that music could save lives. At just 33 years old, he organized Band Aid, whose extraordinary success inspired the creation of the American project that became We Are the World. While dozens of superstars filled the studio, Geldof was the man who had made the entire movement possible. Although he first rose to fame as the outspoken frontman of the Boomtown Rats, charity became his greatest legacy. Geldof co-wrote Do They Know It's Christmas with Midge Ure, helped organize the historic Live Aid concerts in 1985, and later launched Live 8. His humanitarian work earned him an honorary KBE from Queen Elizabeth II in 1986, though as an Irish citizen, he is not officially entitled to use the title Sir. His private life, however, was marked by devastating loss. After divorcing television presenter Paula Yates, Geldof was left heartbroken when she died from a heroin overdose in 2000. He then raised not only their 3 daughters, but also Tiger Lily, Yates's daughter with Michael Hutchence. In 2026, at 74 years old, Bob Geldof continues to campaign against poverty around the world. More than 4 decades later, his greatest achievement is remembered not as a hit song, but as the idea that united the biggest names in music for one historic cause. Steve Perry. Known throughout the music industry as The Voice, Steve Perry delivered the soaring line, "There's a chance we're taking," with such effortless precision that producers barely needed another take. At 36 years old, Perry's astonishing tenor supplied one of the highest and most technically demanding vocals on We Are the World, leaving behind a performance that many musicians still regard as one of the recording's finest moments. Perry arrived at the session at the height of Journey's global success. Anthems including Don't Stop Believin', Open Arms, and Faithfully had already established him as one of rock's defining voices. Decades later, Journey was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, cementing Perry's legacy as one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time, despite his long absence from the band. Behind that seemingly effortless voice, however, Perry endured years of heartbreak and disappointment. A serious hip injury suffered during a hiking accident in the mid-1990s required hip replacement surgery, but his reluctance to undergo the operation immediately created deep tensions within Journey and ultimately led to his departure from the band in 1998. Even after leaving the spotlight, tragedy struck again. In 2013, he also underwent surgery to remove a melanoma skin cancer, adding another personal battle to an already difficult chapter of his life. Now, at 77, Steve Perry remains one of rock's most admired yet most elusive voices. Ironically, the singer whose vocals filled stadiums around the world spent much of his later life seeking something fame could never give him: peace away from the spotlight. James Ingram. Long before We Are the World, Quincy had recognized the young vocalist's extraordinary talent, helping transform him from a behind-the-scenes songwriter into one of R&B's brightest new stars. At just 32 years old, Ingram rewarded that faith by delivering a soulful performance alongside Ray Charles, adding warmth and emotional depth to the song's unforgettable finale. By the mid-1980s, James Ingram had already become one of the most respected voices in contemporary R&B. Hits including Baby, Come to Me, I Don't Have the Heart, and the Oscar-nominated duet Somewhere Out There showcased both his remarkable vocal range and songwriting ability. He earned 2 Grammy Awards and received 2 Academy Award nominations for Best Original Song, building a reputation as one of the industry's finest balladeers. While his professional life flourished, Ingram faced a far more private battle during his final years. He quietly fought brain cancer, choosing to keep his illness largely out of the public eye as his health gradually declined. Unlike many celebrities whose personal lives were filled with scandal, Ingram found stability at home, sharing a marriage of more than 40 years with his wife, Deborah Robinson, while raising their family away from Hollywood's spotlight. Sadly, James Ingram passed away on January 29, 2019, at the age of 66. For many fans, his greatest legacy isn't just the awards or chart-topping hits, it is the unmistakable sincerity in his voice. So that's the We Are the World in 2026. Which legendary artist surprised you the most, and whose voice still gives you chills today? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Then and Now videos.